Fellow two-tailed fox enjoyers, I was just gifted with some pretty interesting information that I would like to relay. Longtime channel supporter Z Feroli popped into the comments section and essentially said, Ironworker, get your two-tailed fox out, throw on the prismatic subclass, and equip Facet of Command. And as many of you know, when it comes to anything two-tailed fox related, you don't have to twist my arm too hard to get me to try it out. But what type of interaction do we have between the fragment and the exotic? If we look at Facet of Command, freezing or suppressing a target reloads your equipped weapons, increases weapon stability, aim assist, and airborne effectiveness. Also, defeating a frozen or suppressed target creates a stasis shard or void breach. In regards to two-tailed fox though, the most interesting piece is really just the first part of the first sentence. Freezing or suppressing a target reloads your equipped weapons. And I'm sure anyone who is familiar with two-tailed fox already knows the void rocket of the volley does carry the suppression debuff. So we should just be able to shoot an enemy with two-tailed and get a free reload. There is a small caveat though, the suppression must actually be applied to see Facet of Command proc, meaning the target does need to have enough health to actually live through the volley. Now for whatever reason, it does reliably generate void breaches when fired on ads, just the auto reload does not occur. But when firing on a target that can actually eat all three of those rockets, when it becomes suppressed, Facet of Command appears on the left side of the screen, accompanied by a countdown timer. Now, when I initially tried out this fragment, I assumed that was a functional cooldown. It's not though. What it appears to be is a duration timer for you to make use of the provided weapon performance boosts. And because of that, when landing another volley, the timer is refreshed and the weapon is once again reloaded. So that means if you are firing on a big enough target, you should never have to physically reload two-tailed fox with this fragment equipped. And naturally, I had to go play around with this for a little bit. So, to the Grasp of Avarice dungeon we go. Now let me say, I've had plenty of fun with two-tailed fox in the past, but I don't think anything even comes close to touching off all 8 bursts of rockets without even thinking about hitting the reload button. It truly is a beautiful sight to behold. The total damage dealt across those 8 rounds fired was 1,056,355, and with it being delivered in about 15.7 seconds, that puts our damage per second at 67,412, and that's with no buffs, no debuffs, and the current surges in this activity are Solar and Strand. Now I don't believe that's bringing up the damage on the Solar Rocket, because in the past I've found Two-Tailed Fox is hard-coded as a void weapon, so this should be a good representation of Two-Tailed Fox's base damage in this encounter. And I honestly don't know how that stacks up currently. I just haven't done enough testing yet within the new sandbox to get a sense of where that sits. But there's also something I wanted to point out regarding the weapon's performance that has been an ongoing issue. When bypassing Two-Tailed Fox's physical reload, sometimes you will get a bit of a firing delay. It almost feels like the weapon jams up momentarily, but then other times the burst releases with seemingly no problem. I don't know the science behind why it happens, but it does, and maybe just something to be mindful of. But just for the sake of doing so, I wanted to see what kind of numbers I can hit if I treated this as a real damage cycle. Am I running a completely optimized kit? No, I am not. Many of the pieces are just part of my general use setup that I've been using in the final shape so far, and I wanted to see how high it could reach. Only thing out of the ordinary are the triple void surges that I do have stacked on. Outside of that though, I have been running Getaway Artist and the Hellion aspect for 2 sources of passive damage. We'll be getting an initial pop from a few Threadlings with Weaver's Call. I have on the Arcane Needle melee because it has 3 charges, and this allows me to intermittently proc Radiant with Facet of Dawn. And because they also unravel targets, a Darkness debuff, my Arc Soul and my Hellion will be getting 10% more damage with Facet of Courage. And I did toy around with a few different supers, but obviously Nova Bomb and Needlestorm yielded the best and comparable results in terms of single target damage. My general damage rotation was drop the Rift, consume the grenade, cast out a melee, fire some rockets, throw another melee, a few more rockets, and once Two-Tailed Fox was spent, hit him with the super, Storm Grenade for good measure, maybe a few plinks with the Pocket Rocket if I had time left, and the best damage phase that I was able to pull off with this setup was just shy of 2.4 million. And given the fact this is a 30-second damage cycle, that means my damage per second was hovering right around 80k. Like I said earlier though, I have no idea how this pans out in the grand scheme of things as of yet. I mean, it seems like pretty good damage to me, but if nothing else, it does provide me with a mental point of reference. And one more thing, and this is mainly for my Titans out there. If you've been doing any damage testing, you gotta tell me about the numbers that you can hit when wearing that new fancy rocket chest piece that you got in final shape. I'd have to imagine that the damage can get pretty silly. But there's only 24 hours in the day, I'm only one man, I got a lot on my plate, I just don't have time to test everything. So if you've got the data and you'd be willing to humor me, I'd be very interested to hear the heights that you can hit with Two-Tailed Fox. But with that, If you did find this video useful, or at least enjoyable, please remember to leave it a like. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more, and as always, have a great day, Guardians, and I'll catch you on the next one.